It is, lads. It is, lads. And talking of title races and top four races and getting into that top four race, Chelsea, finally, lads. Let's all give VJ a round of applause. What up, mate? 1-0 to the Blues. Smashed it, mate. Yeah, you tap that badge, mate. Kiss it. You know, give it
Yeah.
the old, give it the old name on the back. He's got Potter on the back. He got it done over the weekend.
But
There you
it's
go.
a bit dusty.
Yeah, cobwebs, mate. Cobwebs, mate. That's nice, man. I'm glad you got the shirt out the cupboard, mate. Gave it a nice little line. And let's switch our attention to Chelsea winning 1-0, clean sheet and a goal at the Bridge, man. They got 3 points and they're still in mid-table, obviously, but they're a little bit close to Spurs and Newcastle, who both dropped points on the weekend. Um, VJ, Potter in or Potter out? Let's start with that. Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Do you know something? We won indeed, definitely picked up the win. And weirdly enough, normally a win after so long feels like, yeah, everything's much better. We're gonna, go on and maybe win a couple more. It still feels like a loss, weirdly enough. It still feels like we haven't won the game. Obviously, we did win the game, and I've been very patient with Porro. I do want to see him succeed. I've got nothing against the guy himself. Um, but I just don't think he's going to turn it around. I mean, again, his post-match interviews were the same monotone that we've seen, when we've lost and when we've won. But look, I'm grateful for the win. We did win. We have to be a little bit careful as well. Like, we didn't go and beat a Liverpool or a Man United 7-0 or something like that. We beat Leeds 1-0 from a set piece. So it wasn't like we absolutely smashed it. However, Chelsea played well. And to be fair, even the games that we have lost, in parts we've played quite well. But in this game, we did play. It did do quite well. I mean, Havertz 1-on-1 with the keeper, tried to chip him. That's what Havertz does. Keeper knew what he was going to do. Easy save for him. That should have been 1-0. Nice bit of play. João Felix comes in, smashes the bar. Similar goal to the one that Salah scored. I don't even know what number goal it was that Salah scored, but one that basically came off of the underside of the bar, and it went, and I think it was fourth goal for Liverpool. Same one, João Felix, but it comes out, right? So that's not a goal either. Raheem Sterling was fantastic. I thought he was probably one of the best players on the pitch, along with maybe Chilwell, and Fofana actually, who did score the goal. And yes, I lost my train of thought there. I was thinking about the goal going in, but yeah, no, it was a good performance by the team. Yeah, Sterling, he had a chance again in the second half, which he blazed over the bar. But yeah, I mean that was it, right? It was a good performance compared to what we have been, pushing out the last few games, and since the last Palace game that we won, which was about 5 or 6 games ago, this was the next win, which seems like ages ago. But it doesn't move us off mid-table. We're still 10th. None of those problems have gone away. All the problems that we've been discussing are still there. I just don't think the Potter's the guy to take us forward. Again, like I said, we played well. There was no difference in this performance to what we had seen in the last 10 games. It was good parts, there was bad parts. Okay, yesterday most of it was good parts, but next week that could be the other way around again, right? And we end up losing. Leeds had their chances. On another day, they get a goal and they draw 1-1 from the corner. Strangely enough, at the last minute, Meslier comes up from goal, and he gets a sort of a tame header, which Kepa was able to just collect. But again, that could have been easily a 1-1, and we walk away again disappointed. But yeah, I mean, you got to look at the positives, and I don't want to be one of those fans that always want to pick faults with it. It's a game that we won. We played well. Couple of good players, like Fofana and Sterling, I thought were standout. Chilwell seems to be getting back to his best again as well. Obviously, we had Reece James out as well, so he didn't play. But no, all in all, a good day out, and quite happy with the result, of course.
Just before I open the mic to everyone else, VJ, on the whole Potter situation, do you think that the more time he's given, you're seeing something against Spurs? You were good for 20 minutes. Other teams, you've been difficult. Into watching Chelsea's been difficult. You're putting your chances away, which is always, at the end of the day, it's about putting the ball in the back of the net. Do you think there's an argument to say that Potter has been unlucky because the forwards have been not putting their chances away? Because I've heard Chelsea fans say that too. Say we do create chances, but it's putting them away. And then there's the Aubameyang debate. But not today, on this weekend's result against Leeds, you did put the ball in the back of the net and you had something to protect. And that's what you did. So do you think that people have been harsh on Potter with that on the basis that your front line's not been firing at the quality or the level they should be?
Yeah, because defensively, we're not that bad, actually. And in terms of goals conceded, we're up there with the big boys now, what we call the top four. So it's not that. You're right in terms of front line are just not putting the goals away. It's almost like, we could sort of get to the final third and it's like, oh shit, what do we do now? And they kind of run out of ideas and they try a pass, they try a ping, and it just all breaks down. They sort of pass until they lose possession. I do agree. Then again, if we look at just yesterday's result, Havertz scores the first goal and João Felix scores the second one. And suddenly we're having a different conversation because it's a 2 or 3-0 win. And it's like, oh, wow, the forwards are firing. But I agree. This was a set piece. Fofana was there. He got a header in. Fofana's not going to get those goals every day of the week or every, you know what I mean? He's not going to get them all the time. So we've got to rely on the front boys. And the front boys are not putting those chances away right now. And so you asked me a question about Mudryk. Mudryk hasn't even come on and played. He had about 10 minutes against Liverpool. And he looked brilliant, and everyone thought, goodness me, this guy's going to be like smashing it in every week. And since he's come on, he's only had bit part performances, but we haven't seen enough of him.
I had a question for you. I read something or heard about something during the week where currently I think, I'm just going to pick a number, but it's around about that number. Chelsea have around 35 players in their squad that Potter has to manage. Now, Klopp, for example, and maybe to a certain extent Guardiola, they like to work with 18, 19 core players for their tactics and their setups and patterns of play, right? But with 35 players, you've got to try and involve them in the training session, keep them happy, keep them involved. It's quite hard to do, isn't it? I don't know if there's been chat amongst Chelsea fans that, and I think in the previous shows I've said, I think he's a good coach. He's proven it, obviously at Brighton and clubs in Sweden and Europe and whatnot. Maybe Chelsea might be a big step up, but I think he does need a pre-season, and he probably needs more of a say in what players they go after, because who knows if Mudryk was his signing or not. It doesn't seem like it, because if you're going to pay nearly £88 million or 100 million euros, you're going to play him, right? Because to leave him on the bench, either he doesn't fancy him or there's something, or maybe he's just bedding in.
Yeah, we don't know, innit? I mean, you're right. There's so many players out there. When someone doesn't play, the assumption is he's not in favour of the manager. The manager doesn't like him. He doesn't fit the system. Blah blah blah. Right? We just don't know at this point. But he has played him. So who knows? But the problem is he plays Mudryk, and then you got Madueke, David Fofana on the bench. The striker. You're not playing him. So do you sort of think he's not in favour? So the problem is, until you bring that squad down to a reasonable level, like you sort of quoted 18, 19 players, which is, probably a fair number that you need to work with, then you'll know. If Mudryk's not playing, and he's an 18, 19 man squad, then clearly he's out of favour with the manager. He's not his signing. I do think that the signings that Chelsea make are partly club signings, and I do think the manager has a say, but I don't think the manager makes the decision. Get me this guy. Get me that guy.
Vijay, does that hurt? Because how do you build a Pep legacy or Arteta legacy or a Klopp legacy without the manager at the forefront of exactly the profile of player that he wants? Do you think that's a weakness in Chelsea's model, that they just buy the player and say deal with it?
I think there's two things going on here, right? Chelsea. I mean, when Abramovich sold the club under sanctions, he part of the agreement was that they would invest in the squad. But I think there's also these new owners are trying to build a bigger brand of what Chelsea is, right? They're in it for making money. They're not in it because they're Chelsea fans. So what they want to do is to get the best players available around the world and bring them to Chelsea. A Mudryk, a player, all these players that we mentioned, all of them. They're not in it to sort of, bring players through the academy like a Mason Mount and a Reece James. Of course, those players will still trickle through, but not maybe as much as before. So they're sort of fast tracking a brand, so they can, push the value up of the club. So in 5 years' time, it's worth, not 4 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion, whatever they want to do it. So I think there's partly that. So they are bringing players which should hit the ground running, which should propel that revenue going up. So I think the manager doesn't have much of a say like he may have at City, certainly at Liverpool. But I also think that this is what I say is that I don't think Graham Potter's that manager that sort of goes in to the board and says, hang on a minute, this is the people that I want, or these are the guys that I want. You need to bring these guys in.
But he's got his recruitment team with him, hasn't he, Vijay? He's brought his recruitment team. So you'd think those guys see each other every day and they talk, and then they go upstairs and say, this is who we want, and then this is a B and a C. So the fact they brought him with his recruitment team would suggest that maybe times have changed at Chelsea now. The manager's bringing his recruitment team, not just his coaches.
Well, and that time will tell, right? So this is the first proper transfer window with the new owners, etc. And who knows? Part of that decision was already the investments that were lined up to be made in this window. I agree with that. But Graham Potter was on Sky Sports a couple of weeks back, and Gary Neville asked him that same question, and he didn't answer it and say, "Yeah, these are all my signings." He said, "We as a club make the signings." So that tells you that they're not his signings. If they were, he probably would have said, "Yeah, these are the players that I wanted," and we bought them in. So,
I think that's a great question that Josh posed, which is Chelsea's model. So you go back to the Abramovich era is kind of built around. I'm going to call out a couple of managers. So Gus Hiddink, Scolari, right? I think Scolari won it. The Brazilian man, he won the league, didn't he? Conte, he won the league. And these guys, Mourinho was different because when he came 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was, he had a bit more control because of his personality and he was a special one, right? So put him in, he's an outlier. But those other managers I mentioned, they're not managers that will come in and develop players. They come in, they want it ready-made, and they're going to be there a couple of seasons. And actually, Chelsea's model of kind of hiring and firing off a couple of seasons, right? Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League.
Yeah,
and then he got fired, right? It actually does work for Chelsea because they do win trophies and big trophies, and that's the model they go with. Whereas Liverpool, for example, more recently, Jurgen Klopp, I think it's been 7 years there, right? Man United, historically, they have managers, long term. Arsenal did with Wenger, and as such like. So their model does work, but when it doesn't, people obviously going to pose questions. But one question I had with VJ, so with Eduardo Mendy, he tried to negotiate a bigger contract. He wanted on par with Kepa, and I thought he was a decent keeper, right? What's happened there? Now Kepa's kind of, we had that whole situation with Kepa a couple of seasons ago. We refused to come off, and then he was kind of banished to the sidelines. And now he seems like he's back in favour, and obviously he was highly rated in Spain. What's the situation there?
Well, Mendy's still injured. Right, so he's not playing because he's out of favour, but he was out of favour because he started making silly mistakes. I mean, almost comical ones where he might as well have just kicked the ball in the back of the net. It was silly things like that. So he was dropped for Kepa for a bit, and then he was injured, and he still is injured. Although I think he's working back to fitness now, so you might see him playing some game. But Kepa is actually been better than before he was dropped for Mendy or replaced by Mendy, if you know what I mean. But I don't think any of the two keepers, I mean, Mendy had a great season, right? When we won the Champions League, he had an absolute great season, but then he just went all downhill from there. I don't think any of those two keepers are the ones that we would want between the sticks. If we were challenging like an Arsenal or a Man City, I wouldn't be confident with any of those boys.
Any questions, Ricky, Sage, for Chelsea?
I think just my view is if I was this is my view, and I think a lot of big name players that are in Chelsea at the moment, they'll be looking at Potter and thinking, and we discussed this last week, and I still think it's true and very relevant. What has he actually achieved? And who is he to tell me that kind of where's the kind of that comms flow and this is the Messiah that I need to follow and he's my leader. Like I just don't feel that he's got that authoritative status at the moment at that club. And you've got some really big players, and I think that will, at the end of the day, that's the key thing in my view that's playing to Chelsea's and Potter's disadvantage. The fact that he just got so many big players, and he just hasn't proved himself as a manager. And how can he command that respect and that kind of level of authority? And I think the Chelsea backboard and all these the owners probably recognize this, and I don't think, in my view, Potter is the one long term. It's probably a very harsh comment to make, but I think being a fan of an opposing team, looking from outside at the Chelsea situation, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think Potter's the guy. I also don't think we need to get rid of him this season. There isn't that much of the season left, right? I mean, who do you bring in? But on the flip side, you're kind of thinking, well, if you're going to change him now. At least the new manager gets a preseason for next season. Or do you stick with Potter, give him the preseason like Josh said, and then you go, 6-8 weeks into the new season, and we're again, haven't won a game for like 10. Do you get rid of him then? And you already, you're sort of screwing that season as well. So there's a tough decision to be made.
Yeah, there are big managers out there like Zidane and Pochettino.
I see slight parallels with when Arteta went to Arsenal, where obviously their model's different, and they weren't great shakes for the last couple of seasons, right? But you can see that he was trying to build something, and obviously he learned from the best in Pep, right?
Yeah, that's the difference with Arteta. He knows what it feels like to win a title, and he was a player at Arsenal as well. He has that link, whereas with Potter, he doesn't have any links.
Yeah, but
to Chelsea.
to be fair, Potter started in September, right? He didn't have a pre-season. Give him a pre-season. Give him a settled team as much as it can be, right? And then you can make the judgment. I think in football generally, people go after managers' head too quickly.
But that's the reality, though. It is a reality.
It is. Yeah, it's football business, right? But I think he's a good coach, right? And if given the time and the support, which I think he is getting from Bowley, I think he'll do a decent job. But that's me looking at him from the outside. Obviously, some Chelsea fans feel different.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think the only positive you can see in this, if Potter does go in a month's time, at least you could sort of say, well, Bowley and the board gave him time, right? Because a lot of fans by now are sort of saying he should be gone, he should be gone. Some of the pundits are sort of saying he should be gone. Paul Merson the other day was saying last week, he should be gone by now. So there's a lot of people calling for his head, then not calling for his head. Yeah, I'm still sort of 50-50. Who are we going to get in? Look, if you offered me Zidane, of course, bring him in. To Ricky's point, he commands the respect, right? He's got the qualifications. He's got the CV. You walk into any job and your manager hasn't done your job or doesn't know what the business is all about, and he's telling you need to do that and the other. You're kind of like, well, I'll follow your lead, but do you really know what you're talking about? Compared to someone who's been there and done that. And I think that might be the difference.
And also, I think he mentioned in an interview recently, like he is feeling the pressure, but his family have been threatened as well, and things like that, which ain't great, He's only human, right? And I don't know. I think they just got to give him more time, give him a pre-season, give him a settled team, and see what he can do, and then take it from there.
I think I was going to say, with the whole family situation, obviously you don't wish that on anyone. But let's be honest, there's a lot of Chelsea fans, hardcore Chelsea fans, that supported Chelsea through generations of their families, and the recent Chelsea fan has had it good. The recent Chelsea fans, the young Chelsea fans, the 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, all they've seen is glory. You know, most of these guys growing up, so they are going to be frustrated. They're going to feel this pain because they're going to be looking at their neighbours going, what the hell is going on, mate? This ain't Chelsea. But you speak to your legacy Chelsea fans, they're going, relax, you know, like maybe give him till the end of the season, maybe you know, see how things go in the summer. And you've got to look at these situations with an open eye, because Arteta was in the same place. You just mentioned that, Sully. 48 months ago or whatever it was, you know, a year and a half ago, it was Arteta out. The fan base was split. There was toxicness in the club with the owners. And then look, it sorted itself out. And there is merit in backing your manager through these times. And Potter might be Chelsea's manager that then basically does what, you know, Pep's grown into. I'm not saying he's going to be good as Pep, but, you know, what Klopp's done. So it's a difficult one, isn't it, VJ? Because he's got no CV. That's the problem. If he had the CV, you're all sitting there a bit chilled going, do you know what? He's won it. It's like Pochettino. When he went PSG, he hadn't won anything. And he still hasn't really won anything because PSG do normally win the cups in France. So it's a shame, isn't it? Because Arteta's shown otherwise. And he's the one outlier that's been able to maintain a title race, having won nothing as a manager. So do Chelsea fans look at Arsenal and say, there's a great model? Or do Chelsea fans go back to your original model and say, this is all we know that's worked? It's a really difficult one, mate. And I don't think there's a clear answer, is there? It's just week by week.
Playing devil's advocate, right? Let's just say Potter goes at the end of the season. There's only a few more months to go, right? Who do Chelsea get? Who would want to come to Chelsea knowing that they're not probably in control?
I think it's a great job. I think it's a great job. You've got a good owner who's backed the team and he's legally, I believe, contracted to spend more. I don't know what the limit is, VJ.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a minimum amount he needs to spend. So for a manager like Conte or some of these proven winners, that's just a great place to go, because you know you're getting the money. You don't even have to talk about money. You don't even have to negotiate that. You know you're getting 200-300 million that summer. You've already got quality in the squad. Right? I think it's one of the most admiring jobs, because if Todd Bowley does stick out with Potter, one thing he's shown to the football world is, I didn't throw him under the bus at the first sign of failure. I stuck it out.
Would you go and get someone like Zidane then?
Well, he said he doesn't want to manage, right? Apparently in England. So Pochettino, I don't know about Poch. I think maybe the Spurs boys want him back. You know, when Conte, I don't think Conte's going to last, is he? I think, you know, I think he'd be off soon.
Spurs in a minute. Yeah, Conte might be available. You never know. Yeah,
exactly.
I think Conte wants to go back to. He's eyeing one of the top jobs in Italy, isn't he?
Italy, yeah.
Or he's fallen out with Levy. It's one of the two. We'll find out in the summer.
I think one that you might want to look at in the future is Julian Nagelsmann at Munich. He's been a bit up and down there because Dortmund are doing really well this season, aren't they? So because Munich normally have it wrapped up every single season, but this season they got a bit of competition with Dortmund now at the top of the league. But
hey, listen,
Nagelsmann is one to probably consider if they did get rid of Potter.
Bring Tuchel back.
No, I was going to say Tuchel is probably one of the best managers out there that's available. So when he takes a job, you normally get a trickle down. So you never know. Do you know what I mean? I think this summer is going to be a dominoes of manager changes. But let's close off with Chelsea. Sage, you got any closing thoughts on where Chelsea at? Do you think there's? Where are you on the Potter one? Are you leaning towards wait till the end of the season? No, I think you're on mute, mate. Are you on mute?
Yeah, I'm on mute. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah, we can hear you now, man. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm more of on the side of give him a little bit of time, because as everyone said, he is a great coach. I think he's a perfect coach. Look at Brighton. He didn't reach that level with Brighton quickly, you know. That took a while. I think it was like a season or two before they got to that sort of level. So I think he's a very, very good coach, but a manager to manage Chelsea, I don't think he's that guy. So give him to the end of the season, see if he can grind out a few more results. If he doesn't get those results, he's got to go. I think he's got to go, personally. So, yeah.
Fair enough, man. Thank you for that. Lads, thanks a lot for that, for the input on Chelsea. VJ, will be seeing you next week, and hopefully you'll get a win in terms of fixtures. I don't think you've got that many difficult ones. Obviously, you've got the Champions League fixture this week on Tuesday. But otherwise, in the Premier League, I was just having a look. They're not big fixtures. You know, most of those teams are below you. And then you've got a little tricky bit coming up in the towards the end of April. So
I was going to say, there can't be many below us, isn't there?
it's about, yeah, I think, how many was it? 3 below you now. So was it 8 below you, whatever it is. So now you've got a few.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say no game's easy, man. And we got done to Southampton, so
Yeah, it's Leicester City away, it's Everton at home, and it's Aston Villa at home, and then you've got Liverpool at home, Wolves away. So it does get a little bit more trickier there, especially with the Anfield.
at least those first three should be winnable, shouldn't they, for Chelsea? And then Liverpool and Wolves are certainly more tougher ones.
Yeah, and you never know, you might have a little Champions League run, mate. If you get the result on Tuesday, then it might be like, forget the Premier League, let's just try and win the Champions League. What an amazing season that would be if you could do that under par.
Yeah,
But
imagine
then
that.
Will he get sacked after that? Who knows?
Well,
Right.
Di Matteo
No,
did.
I was going to say
There
Di
you go.
Matteo.